This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to the April 21st, Thursday, SIG Cloud Provider Working Group Extraction meeting. This is part of the CNCF, and we are compliant, or we aim to be compliant with all of the CNCF rules with regards to how we treat others. It amounts to please be considerate and inclusive of all your fellow participants. And with that, we'll start with Andrew's first item, which is moving the time slot this meeting happens at. So it has traditionally happened at 1:30 Pacific, but we've just recently had a vote. And Andrew, would you like to go over the results of the vote?
Yep, I'm gonna go with 9:30 Pacific time, starting May 5th. And yeah, sorry again for the delay on that. I know we agreed on it for a while and just never got around to it. And so yeah, Walter owns the calendar invite, so I've asked him to change it starting May 5th.
Okay, and just because the world works on a 24-hour clock, that's 9:30 a.m.?
Yeah, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks for clarifying. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Elmiko, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, so during an investigation of some of our, KCM to CCM stuff, we were looking at this use service account credentials flag, which is a Boolean. And, in a lot of our deployments, we just had it set to true. But as we were auditing them and kind of investigating how this flag works, it became a little mysterious to us because this flag goes back to the KCM days and it's existed, I think, since 2016 or something like that. So I was kind of curious if anybody here had a, kind of knew about it or how it works or maybe some of the history behind it. So yeah.
I can comment on it a bit, but Walter, you probably have to fill in some of the more API machinery specific details because that part's a little fuzzy to me. But yeah, like you're saying, it is carried over historically from Kube Controller Manager. So my understanding is that if you don't set this flag, or let me back up. So going back to API server, when API server starts up, it has a bootstrap process where it creates role bindings and roles for controllers, like on a per controller basis. And if you don't set use service account credentials, it uses the system role for the controller as just a user agent for the client that the controller uses. And it just shares the permission of the component itself. So every controller gets the same permissions as Kube Controller Manager, which is very privileged. If you set the use service account credentials flag, what it does is it passes in the system service account name to the controller, and then it ensures that the client used by the controller is bound to the role that was created on Bootstrap by the API server, which is only supposed to have the restricted roles that the controller needs and nothing else. And it's just a way to make sure that every controller is only using a service account that is bound to the operations that it needs, and it doesn't just have blanket access that the Kube Controller Manager has. So that's the context I'm aware of.
I think that is largely true. The one thing I will comment, and this is a KCM only comment, but the KCM actually is very privileged. And I believe, in fact, that the KCM has a main loop in it attached to the role provider control, or the role controller, something. Anyway, there is one of the controllers inside of the KCM which is actually capable of creating service accounts. And so I think there are scenarios in which, rather than the Kube API server, the KCM itself may set up the relevant service accounts and roles for the controllers. But other than that, yeah, it is. My understanding is it's about allowing each controller to run as its separate service account, so that you can lock down what it has permission to do. It will also, I think, if you have certain other features like server-side apply turned on, it can also do things like indicate which fields a given controller has ownership of via its service account.
Okay, so then, and this kind of concurs with some of the investigations that, you know, my colleagues had done. And I guess like the question then becomes, in a CCM where we're explicitly giving the service account with the deployment, does this flag still have meaning? Or is it kind of like an artifact of the past at that point?
It's a great question. The one thing I will comment on this one, and I wish Nick were here. Nick, not this most recent release, but the release before it, actually added into the CCM configuration what I believe is a role. It's either a role or a service account per controller configuration. So it's, yeah, it'll have actually merged.
I think what he added was, as part of the controllers flag, you can specify.
I think it's that allow custom service account name to be used for cloud controllers. So it's down a few more. One more.
This one.
Yeah.
The pull numbers on this repo.
So I'm guessing that if you want to use this functionality, you may still need that flag. But this is where I would love to have Nick here because he actually wrote this feature.
Right, and like the main use case for this feature is that, like in the KCM, the service account that we pass to controllers is like a fixed name that is created either by KCM or Cube API server. So there's no way to actually like manage or mutate that. But by doing this, you can like force a certain service account to pass into the controller, and you can control the role bindings and the roles that are associated with it.
Yep.
So I think to answer the question, I do think that the use service account credentials flag might either it it requires additional flags to actually work as expected, like Nick proposed, or it's just old behavior that we didn't actually need to carry over.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a good discussion. I'll share this with my colleagues, and I'm sure I'm sure they'll have some ideas coming out of this.
Yeah, my guess is that it may not be necessary, but if you want to use this feature of Nick's, you almost certainly need to have it turned on.
Right, and I don't think
I will. Go ahead.
For us, I don't think it's going to. I mean, I don't think we're trying to use this. I think we're just trying to figure out, like, can we turn use service account credentials to false in a situation where we're creating service accounts and, you know, and specifying them in the deployment. And we thought we could, but we wanted to try and do some due diligence because it's a little difficult to figure out how this thing works.
So what I would do is I would look in the Cube API server log with the relevant log level turned up. You should be able to look at the mutation requests coming in, and if you start playing with it, I think what you may discover is that if you turn it off, the KCM and the CCM are going to use a single service account, whereas if you have it turned on, you will see the requests coming into the Cube API server with different service accounts depending on which one of the controllers is making the mutation request. And I will say that that can be very helpful for debugging. It can also be useful I mean, the other thing is you don't have to do it that way. If you're using SSA, you can also take a look at the field level ownership in the metadata on the resource, and that will clue you in as well.
Cool. Yeah, these are some great tips.
Awesome. Great discussion. Thanks. Great question. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to discuss? All right. One thing I wanted to mention, we are getting to the point where with API Server Network Proxy, where we're starting to consider wanting to actually branch it. So we're thinking we might create a branching strategy. And I think Andrew was leading the effort there. And we were thinking about putting a .1 branch which would currently be sort of our more experimental branch, and then keeping the 0.0 line for sort of more stable for now. Did you want to chat about that at all, Andrew?
I don't think we need to chat about it here. I mean, we could. I mean, yeah, exactly what you said. I think we're at a point where we have enough new feature requests and PRs coming in, but we also have bug fixes and issues coming in at the same time, and it might be good to branch it out, especially because we like backport connectivity client fixes into the API server, and so we don't want to be in a situation where bumping a bug fix in the connectivity client also pulls in a bunch of new features that we may not want in a backport patch and all that. So yeah, I think it's something we're thinking about, and might be worthwhile doing. I think we have a bit more time to think it over though.
Sure. Did you want any? I mean, the other thing, we can always ask for help. I didn't know if you wanted any help with that, or.
I think the only thing is, like, I don't think I have permissions to create branches and push branches there, or maybe I do. I just assumed I did. But let me check that, and if I do, I might go ahead and just make the branch. I know some community members, like I know Joseph, actually had concerns about branching out because obviously, like, there's a development overhead of managing multiple branches and backports. So he actually has a preference to just keep a single branch. So I think maybe just keep taking the discussion to the issue and making, like keeping the discussion going on in the best.
Sounds good. All right. Did anyone have anything else?
Well, I have one item, but it's just asking because we are all here. Does anyone has any opinion regarding adding metric on controller level to ensure that single controller is only running on KCM/CCM as like service controller or root controller, because this one will be migrated from the from KCM to CCM in the context of HA migration. I know that there was some work done in the open source. There's some metric added to the component base repository, but I don't know if there is any planned follow-up on this.
So the one thing I will say is that I think Gerald or jiahui was the one who did most of that work. So I would suggest maybe reaching out to jiahui. But I think on the whole, it sounds like an excellent idea to me.
Okay.
Just for clarification, so you're saying like a metric in both the KCM and CCM to indicate whether either of the components are running which controllers?
Yeah, I saw some draft the design that kind of have this idea. If we could go to the component base repository, I could point out to the specific metric that will be shared between the KCM and CCM.
So I mean, two quick things. I mean, I think the plan is to just indicate whether or not the controller is actively running, correct?
And the Prometheus.
Yeah. And then the one thing one quick thought is that since these are not instant of times, but time buckets right after switching active controller manager. There is the possibility that you will, for one cycle, get 2 controllers, but that should not be a sustained state.
Yeah, this is something that I already have in mind with this metric, that
Okay,
there is the
cool.
problem with this design. But actually, I saw that this kind of metric is already implemented, and I was kind of wanted to confirm that there is no plan yet to kind of follow up with this, and this is something that can be done.
Wait, so
I absolutely.
these metrics, like, are we like,
Sorry?
are we saying that these metrics exist, but it's just a matter of wiring it into KCM and CCM, or are these used already?
No, it's not used already. We need to enable it. I was trying to prepare something before the code freeze, but it turned out that there is a little more work than I expected. So this will be probably only available in 1.25.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it
So
seems
right now, when I have the
already
longer
used.
window of the work, I want to confirm that there is no any trap regarding this metric that I'm not aware of. Just getting the context on this problem.
Yeah, I would check with jiahui, but as far as I know, jiahui has been moved to where is working on Cell in the Cube API server and has sort of stepped away from doing cloud provider work.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, but plus one for me, like if the metric's already there, it's just a matter of wiring it in. That makes sense to me. So.
Yeah, same.
Cool, awesome. Sounds like we have consensus. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to chat about? Awesome, then I think I'm going to give everyone 5 minutes back. Thank you, everyone.
Cool, thanks. Later.